When you start studying English literature at A-level, you're expected to start engaging with different critical interpretations of literary texts. This might look like quoting a critic directly and assessing his or her opinion, or it might look like weighing up multiple different interpretations of a text and determining which one you find to be the most convincing. Or, if you're studying a play, it might look like analysing a film or stage adaptation of the text. The way in which a script is performed depends on the critical interpretations that are made by the director and the actors. And so, by assessing these critical decisions in your own work, you're engaging with different readings of the written material. Or you can take a theoretical approach and apply a literary theory to the text that you're studying. Examples of literary theories that you may or may not have come across before are feminist criticism, queer theory, eco-criticism, post-colonialism, psychoanalytic criticism, new historicism, and so on and so on. These theories act like lenses. You look through them to see a book or poem or play in a new light. Theories transfer concepts and ideas from other disciplines, such as gender studies or ecology, onto a literary text, which provides a different insight into its effect and meaning. In this video, we're going to take a look at Marxist literary criticism, a theory which applies Marxist concepts and ideas to literature. But before we get into that, it's important to note that A-level exam boards in the UK refer to the use of a critical interpretation in a student's work as Assessment Objective 5, or AO5 for short. When you quote a critic, or apply a literary theory to the text that you're studying, or analyse a film or stage adaptation, or do any of the things that I just mentioned, you'll gain marks for AO5. However, not all of the modules in your course will give credit for AO5. That's why it's really important that you check to see whether AO5 is assessed in your exam before you sit it. If it is, then you must engage with critical interpretations somewhere in your essay. But if it isn't, then you must not do this. You'll be wasting valuable exam time which could be devoted to doing other things. Additionally, it's really important that you check to see how many marks are awarded for AO5. This will let you know roughly how much of your essay should be devoted to engaging with critical interpretations. For example, if 20 marks are awarded for AO5 and only 10 marks are awarded for the other assessment objectives, then AO5 should lead the way. Critical interpretations should dominate your essay. However, if there are only 10 marks awarded for AO5 and 20 marks are awarded for another assessment objective, then critical interpretation should take a bit more of a back seat. You should still include them, but you should ultimately be prioritising something else. In short, make sure you read your syllabus so you know exactly what it is that your examiner is looking out for and you can prioritise just that. So, with that out of the way, what is Marxism? Marxism is a political, social and economic philosophy named after Karl Marx, who, along with Friedrich Engels, published the Communist Manifesto in 1848. Marxism analyses the economic organisation of society by scrutinising the way in which goods are produced and shared. It reflects on class struggle, observing how the ruling classes, known as the bourgeoisie, exploit the working class, who are referred to as the proletariat, for profit. Marx believed that spreading this philosophy among the proletariat would open their eyes to the way in which they are exploited and spark a revolution. This, in turn, would lead to the birth of an ideal, classless society. Marxist literary criticism is the application of these ideas to a novel, play, or poem. A Marxist critic might analyse the way in which a text depicts contemporary class struggle, for example, or point out the ways in which an author is challenging the economic structure of society and the unfair distribution of goods. Alternatively, a Marxist reading might criticise an author for ignoring class conflicts and failing to draw attention to the economic and social systems that are oppressing their working class characters. Applying Marxist criticism to a text shows an examiner that you are aware of the role that class plays in the plot, which demonstrates your ability to reflect on a different interpretation. However, there are some mistakes that students commonly make when they try to engage with Marxist criticism, so be aware of these two pitfalls. 1. Avoid anachronism. An anachronism is a personal thing that's placed in a time period where it doesn't belong. For example, if a film adaptation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice showed Elizabeth Bennet wearing an Apple Watch, this would be an anachronism, as Apple Watches didn't exist in the early 1800s. The adjective here is anachronistic. So, to be anachronistic is to place a personal thing into a time period where it doesn't belong. You must make sure that you're not being anachronistic in your essays. The Communist Manifesto was published in 1848. So, if you're applying Marxist theory to a writer who lived before this time, you need to be very careful. Shakespeare, for example, never heard of the term Marxism. He never read the Communist Manifesto and would not understand its key terms. Similarly, not a single member of a contemporary Elizabethan audience would have been familiar with Marxist philosophy. To be clear, this doesn't mean that you should avoid applying Marxist theory to writers who existed before Marxism. On the contrary, it's a really great thing to do. Shakespeare's plays still reflect on class relations and class struggle, and it's perfectly acceptable for a modern reader to interpret these themes through a Marxist lens. But the important point to take away is that you must make it clear that you are aware that Shakespeare, or whoever you're writing about, existed before Marxism. Ensure that your writing never ever implies that Shakespeare actually was a Marxist, or that his works are knowingly interacting with Marxist concepts as they were defined by Marx and Engels. You might believe that Shakespeare's work anticipates Marxism. You might even suggest that he was a proto-Marxist, which means someone who promoted Marxist ideas before the philosophy existed. But you must make sure that you never suggest that he actually was a Marxist, as this is impossible. And now for common pitfall number 2, avoid definitive words and phrases. When you're applying Marxist theory to a literary text, you must bear in mind that there is not one single Marxist way to interpret the text. Different Marxist critics will have different opinions on the same literary work. There is no singular Marxist reading. Instead, there are lots of different ways in which Marxist theory can be applied to a book or play. With this in mind, be careful to avoid very definitive words and phrases, such as a Marxist critic would argue, or Marxist critics believe that. These phrases suggest that all Marxist critics hold the same opinion, which isn't true. Instead, use tentative language which shows that you understand that there are many different ways in which Marxist theory can be applied, such as some Marxist critics argue, or a Marxist critic might suggest that. So that's my brief introduction to Marxist literary theory and a few tips on how to use it. In the next video, I'm going to demonstrate how to read a text through a Marxist lens by engaging in a Marxist reading of King Lear. So if you'd like to see that, please hit like and subscribe. If you'd like to see more content from Notable, please go and check out my Patreon. The link is down below in the description. My patrons help me to keep making these videos, and they also get access to a whole bundle of grade-boosting content, from worksheets to bonus video lessons, to training to improve your writing style, to A-star level exemplar essays, essay plans, literary analyses of key A-level texts, critical quotation banks, mock exams and questions, worksheets on key context, voting rights on what I publish and produce next, digital downloads galore. There are live Q&As, there are tips and tricks on how to smash the assessment objectives and truly impress your examiners. There's everything you could possibly need, and all for just £5 a month, so do check that out if you're interested. For now, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.